Subordinating conjunctions. Remember, we have three types of sentences: simple sentence, compound sentence, and complex sentence. Coordinating conjunction exists primarily for the use of forming compound sentences, just as correlative conjunctions exist to create simple sentences, though we use them sometimes to make compound sentences too. What we have left in this table tells us that the subordinating conjunctions exist for complex sentences. In other words, we use subordinating conjunctions to create complex sentences. Now, what is a complex sentence, by the way? By definition, a complex sentence is a type of sentence that consists of one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. It could be two dependent clauses. An independent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb, portraying a complete thought. On the other hand, a dependent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb, but doesn't give a complete thought and is marked by a dependent marker word, also known as subordinating conjunction. So that's one of subordinating conjunctions' functions. They introduce the dependent clauses, telling us that this clause is less important than the main clause, which is the independent clause. Another function of subordinating conjunctions is they tell us what the dependent clause's relationship to the main clause is, whether it is an effect, a reason, a cause, a condition, or a comparison. Now, here is a table of the most commonly used subordinating conjunctions. Let's start with the cause. We use the subordinating conjunctions since, as, and because to introduce a clause as a cause. For example, you passed the exam since you studied hard last night. We can write it in reverse too, like, since you studied hard last night, you passed the exam. Now, let's locate the independent and dependent clauses. You passed the exam is our independent clause. It can exist as a simple sentence because it contains a subject and a verb, and it portrays a complete thought without the dependent clause. We just need to put a period. Since you studied hard last night is our dependent clause. It is dependent on the independent clause, so it cannot stand alone on its own. And notice the dependent marker word since. It introduced the clause, telling us that this is the reason why you passed the exam. We can also use because and as instead of since. You passed the exam because you studied hard last night. Or because you studied hard last night, you passed the exam. You passed the exam as you studied hard last night. Or as you studied hard last night, you passed the exam. Note, this should go the same with the other subordinating conjunctions. We can interchange clauses. Comparison and contrast. We use the subordinating conjunction as to introduce a clause as something similar to the independent one, or something that is expected. Example: today's classes have been postponed as we thought they would. She will join the competition as you advised she should. We can remove the commas too, and they will still be correct, but they are better off with commas. Either way, it's fine. So, same thing we did in our examples earlier, we can interchange the dependent and independent clauses. As you advised she should, she will join the competition. As we thought they would, today's classes have been postponed. That's for similarities. Now we use the subordinating conjunctions though, whereas, while, although, and even though to introduce the clauses as the opposite to the independent ones. Example: the ice cream was superb, although I didn't get to enjoy it because of my toothache. I watched the movie, though I was told it wasn't really good. Other students don't complete their sleep just to pass the exam while you are roaming around enjoying yourself. I don't enjoy music, whereas I could spend hours watching movies. I am tall, even though my parents are short. Next category, giving conditions. We use the subordinating conjunctions as long as, if, provided that, when we introduce a clause as a condition of the independent clause. For example, I'll go with you if you buy me ice cream. If you buy me ice cream is our dependent clause here, which is introduced by the conjunction if as a condition. The independent clause I'll go with you will only happen if this condition is met. The conjunction if is the most common in terms of expressing conditions. Conjunctions having the same meaning as the conjunction if are as long as, provided that, provided, and providing. Although their meaning is similar to if, these conjunctions are generally better because they give more emphasis to the conditions given. Example, I'll go with you as long as you buy me ice cream. I'll go with you provided that you buy me ice cream. I'll go with you provided you buy me ice cream. And or, I'll go with you providing you buy me ice cream. On the other hand, the subordinating conjunction in case can be used to introduce the clause as a possible event. Its independent clause, therefore, can be used as a precaution. Example, I'll bring my raincoat just in case it rains. Can you text me the things to buy in case I'll lose my list? Last, we use even if to tell that the clause is not important because the independent clause will happen or be done anyway. Example, I will buy that car even if you scold me. Meaning, scold me, I don't care, I'll still buy that car. Another example, she will leave me even if I give her everything. Meaning, I'll give her everything, but she will still leave me at the end of the day. Place. For place, we use where and wherever whenever the dependent clause is anything related to a place. It is important to note that the two are not interchangeable. We use where if the place talked about is somewhat specific, while we use wherever if we mean any place. Example, they live in a place where there are no huge buildings, meaning they live in a place that has no huge buildings. Another example, she goes to a college where all students are required to join academic clubs, meaning she studies in a college that requires all students to join academic clubs. I want to live wherever autumn is there, meaning I want to live in any place as long as autumn is there or present. Next, reason category or reasoning. When we want to introduce a clause as a reason, we use the subordinating conjunctions in order that, so that, and so. Example, she asked for your notes so she could copy them. She asked for your notes so that she could copy them. She asked for your notes in order that she could copy them. Meaning she wants to copy your notes, that's why she asked for them. Time. For time, we have divided it into 5 fundamental parts, beginning with number 1, previously. For previously, as an adverb, we use before as our conjunction. We use before to introduce the clause as the second event after the independent clause. Example, I often have coffee before taking a bath, meaning I have coffee first, then take a bath after. Concurrently. For concurrently, we have the subordinating conjunction when. We use when to emphasize 2 actions happening at the same time. Example, we were laughing when someone knocked on the door, meaning someone knocked on the door while we were laughing. 3. Subsequently. After. We use after to introduce the clause is the first event. Example, I take a bath after having coffee, meaning I have coffee first, then I take a bath second. Up to a certain time. Until. We use until to introduce the clause as the event that stopped the first event. Example, I was eating ice cream until my stomach ached, meaning I stopped eating ice cream when my stomach started aching. Number 5 is the last one, anytime or every time. Whenever. We use whenever to introduce that the clauses happen together. Example, I get nervous whenever my English teacher comes in, meaning every time my English teacher comes in, I get nervous. So these two events happen all at the same time.